Hello there. Is the global population about to be hit with serious food shortages? Today we're hearing about our government's plans to enhance UK energy security. But it looks like the nation's food security will be the next thing to come under immediate threat. So, is the UK headed for a new normal of starvation rations? Have circumstances all conspired to put the whole of humanity in the famine firing line? Is a whole string of unrelated events about to lead to worldwide misery? Now, at the moment, we are all well aware of the price shock to energy that the Russia-Ukraine war has produced, and that pushes the price of everything through the roof. But Russia and Ukraine combined export more than a quarter of the world's wheat and are also key suppliers of barley, corn and sunflower oil. And crucially, Russia supplies huge amounts of fertilizer products. All this feeds billions of people around the world. But right now, this is being strangled off by a combination of military action in Ukraine and economic sanctions against Russia. That will inevitably create a worldwide shortage of grain-based foods, as well as reduce the productivity of farmers as they are forced to use less fertilizers. So prices will skyrocket. But worse, the war hit the delayed crop planting season in Ukraine, with the result being a massive reduction in crop planting. And if the war continues into the harvesting season in June, with blocked ports, etc., then many people in places like North Africa and the Middle East will be stuffed. And sleepy Joe Biden has already warned Americans that higher food prices and shortages are about to get real for everyone. Now, the good news for the UK is that we are pretty self-sufficient in grains. According to a 2021 Government Food Security Report, if you want to believe UK government reports that is, the UK is largely self-sufficient in production of grains, producing over 100% of domestic consumption of oats and barley and over 90% of wheat. But the report did point out that wheat yields dropped by 40% in 2020 due to adverse weather conditions. And UKflourmillers.org says, the average UK harvest is around 15 million tonnes of wheat, so there is enough quantity to meet the UK milling industry's tonnage requirement. However, it is not all of the quality required by millers, and as such, some wheat is imported. It also says that only 1% of flour sales are imported. And the Government Food Security Report also said, in meat, milk and eggs, the UK produces roughly equivalent volume to what it consumes. But avian flu does seem to be persistent in the UK for some reason, to the point that there are no free-range eggs available because the hens are all in lockdown, and that might affect poultry and egg availability into the future. Now, we may seem to be in a semi-privileged position regarding food in the UK, but the government report I quote from also points out that overall, the UK currently produces about 60% of its domestic food consumption by economic value, part of which is exported. This means just under half of the actual food on plates is produced in the UK, including the majority of grains, meat, dairy and eggs. But these numbers will be affected over time as the population continues to ramp up fast, and we are forced to use more land for housing and infrastructure. And we have more mouths to feed. Now, we may end up paying more for our food, but at least we will be able to get some food, even if it means rationing, tightening belts, and having a less diverse menu to choose from. Well, for the poor among us anyway, something I suspect that many in the elite would like to see imposed on the great unwashed population. But on a global scale it will mean starvation for some. And many countries who rely on Russian and Ukrainian grain may be left with bare cupboards, and that might spark some population movement in the search for food. Either that, or those governments involved will take the side of Russia, buy its grains and feed their people. Now, Kwasi Kwarteng, the business secretary, told the BBC this morning that we won't be feeling the benefits of our energy restructuring for 3 to 4 years. So in real people speak, that's probably nearer a decade then. During which time a Labour government is bound to be formed as we do our usual red to blue to red to blue political flip-flop. And Labour will of course change energy and food policy. And we will then also find out if it is a good idea to tax the wealthy people and the successful corporations until their pips squeak and end up driving prices ever higher. That means energy prices for homes, businesses and farmers will be high for that length of time and more. So one assumes that food prices will also remain high. And taxes are always pushed up anyway, so this cost of living crisis has the real potential to morph into our new normal, subsistence living for the masses into the future. But what concerns me is that we were getting warnings that food shortages were on the way well before there was any indication of a war in Europe, all down to the pandemic. And this war will have just made things worse, of course, and according to some, climate change will also cause food shortages. So where is that good news? Well, I'm sorry, there isn't any. It was reported back in 2019 that UK soil only had another 100 harvests left in it due to the intensive farming methods we use. But now it's worse. Michael Gove recently claimed that the UK is only 30 to 40 years away from the eradication of soil fertility. Funny how all these worldwide shocks are arriving so quickly one after the other, isn't it? So we've had the pestilence and conquest, we're having a war that could easily spread, and now many are on the verge of famine. Now, what was that fourth horseman called again?